Good morning. Kathy's asked me to do this week's midweek reflection. I hope you're all keeping well and enjoying the weather. Last Sunday, Kathy talked a lot about windmills and about how we came here to the Stanton Benefice and our ministry, and then more importantly, about the Holy Spirit working within all our lives now and in the past. So I guess I thought it'd be quite helpful, a bit of a potted history about me, some backstory and how the Holy Spirit got hold of me way back when. I'm a proud Yorkshireman, a surprise I guess to some of you, as I've absolutely no accent left at all. I was born in Barnsley, South Yorkshire in 1958. My dad was a draftsman at Ransom and Rapier, a manufacturer of large industrial crawler cranes and excavators, and they were sold all over the world. Later it became NCK Rapier and was eventually bought out by the tycoon Robert Maxwell. And there's another strange story. But safe to say my dad was an ambitious man and wanted to better his lot for his family and get away from what was, to be honest, a pretty miserable part of the world in the 1950s. My mother was the daughter of a shop owner in the local village, but had aspirations of her own. Again, another long story. We moved several times during those years as he was promoted, and finally we settled in Wickham Market. Two things I remember from my parents. My mother always used to say, we're never going back to Yorkshire ever. Here in Suffolk the world is in colour, the world is in technicolor, and back there it's just black and white. A reflection really of the mining community from which we had moved. And she was right in some respects. My father, however, said to me on numerous occasions, and this was his catchphrase, there's always a way. I can remember that phrase to this day, and it still inspires me. Be it just a simple stuff that we used to do, making something work DIY-wise from basically no materials, or figuring a way to do something that normally would be impossible on whatever level. He was an inspiration to me in so many ways, and I've passed that saying on to my kids, and I believe Dan, my son, has passed it on to his kids as well. I started going to the church youth group in Wickham Market. It was some 30 or 40 strong at that time. I had no faith at all, but I went there because that's where all the pretty girls seemed to go. There's no simpler or nobler way of putting it. That's why I went. But I was in that group for many years, and my faith grew and so it was within its membership to differing degrees and with different people. I remember on one occasion about 6 or 7 of the group went to a Christian camp for the weekend, and when they came back they said they'd changed, they'd become Christians. For a time it was a little divisive, and I felt angry, and it did split the group for a while. Weren't we all Christians? Weren't the whole group Christians? I believe it was at this point that the Holy Spirit began to work in my life. I began to learn about what it meant to be born again. We still meet with some of those guys, some of the friends from way back then in the youth group, and it's great to just discuss how relationships and experiences were back then. They were good times. Wickham Market still has an annual weekend away en masse at Sizewell Hall, which is a fabulous Christians conference centre, a truly magical place to meet with God. We had a youth conference there once as a church, and the whole weekend had been about letting the Holy Spirit come in and work in our lives. And at the end of the weekend, prior to us leaving, we met in the main social area downstairs and gathered round in a circle, holding hands. I can remember it now, vividly. I felt the Holy Spirit was moving from hand to hand around this circle, but that circle was broken at me. I spoke with one of the leaders after that, and at that point was floored by the Holy Spirit and was born again as he spoke and explained stuff to me. There is indeed always a way. That the Holy Spirit can claim even the hardest and sceptical of hearts. And so it was from that point it became clear to me how my life would have Jesus at its heart. One day back in church, a new family arrived. A mother, 2 daughters and a son. I was dumbstruck with the eldest daughter, Kathy, and the rest is history. And here we are now, 36 years married with 2 fantastic married grown-up kids. And now with 3 grandchildren too. How on earth did that happen? Where does the time go? Last month I spoke about God blessing us with all the materials we needed for the task in hand. But it is us that actually have to put the work in and make it happen, get that work done and fulfill God's purpose. And so it is that the Holy Spirit works within us. We are the materials that God has put life into to carry out his task in hand, and again we need to grasp it and run with it and indeed fulfill God's purpose wherever he places us. When I was searching out Christianity in those early days, I was taken to a charismatic worship and prayer meeting. No one had told me that the Holy Spirit might be present, but so it turned out. The Holy Spirit made his presence felt in many miraculous ways, and to be honest, I was terrified. It was all I could do to not bolt for the nearest exit, as it was all so unknown to me at the time. But since then, I've also experienced various things with the Holy Spirit. Literally thousands of teenagers are being collectively touched by God in a great wave of the Holy Spirit's presence. Some fantastic stuff. But me being me, I still struggle with it, and I still do. But with God, there's always a way. God's Spirit affects and manifests and enables people in so many different ways. But I've learned and discovered that he is always gentle, always loving, and always most certainly good. 1 Corinthians says, there are different kinds of gifts, but they are all given to believers by the same Spirit. There are different ways to serve, but they all come from the same Lord. There are different ways the Spirit works, but the same God is working in all these ways and in all people. The Holy Spirit is given to each of us in a special way that is for the good of all. To some people, the Spirit gives the message of wisdom. To others, the same Spirit gives the message of knowledge. To others, the same Spirit gives faith. To others, that one Spirit gives gifts of healing. And to others, he gives the power to do miracles. To others, he gives the ability to prophesy. And to others, he gives the ability to tell the spirits apart. To others, he gives the ability to speak in different kinds of languages they had not known before. And to still others, he gives the ability to explain what was said in those languages. All the gifts are produced by one and the same Spirit. He gives gifts to each person, just as he decides. I'm naturally a pretty reserved type of guy, and I like to fade into the background, if I'm honest, and still do to a certain extent. But the Holy Spirit has given me a small inner confidence to do what I'm passionate about, to lead worship, to sing, to play and facilitate that worship experience for folk. Something I'd never have dreamt of being capable of, let alone comfortable with beforehand. So be inspired, be expectant, be open to what God has in store for each one of us. There is always a way. I do pray that we too, here in our benefice, will see more and more the Holy Spirit at work as we enter this brave new world and as we move forward with Him. There is nothing to fear in Him, and there is always a way, especially with God. God bless you all. Amen.